Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day's a great day not to be in a cult. Scientology done messed up again. It looks like Tom Cruise's favorite Scientology drug rehab program called Narconon is under investigation in the UK, as is being reported by The Guardian this morning. Tom Cruise has relentlessly promoted the Narconon program when he has gone on, movie press junkets and whatnot. And particularly back when he was doing his War of the Worlds thing, if you guys remember, was that all the way back in 2005-ish? And he was going on about the Brooke Shields thing and the medication thing. And he brought up all the Narconon. So anytime Scientology, Tom Cruise has talked about how he's gotten hundreds and thousands of people personally off of drugs. He's talking about sending them to Scientology's Narconon drug rehab program. So let's see what is being reported this morning. This is in The Guardian. Scientology-linked UK rehab center investigated by charities Watchdog. Case opened after observer investigation found that vulnerable people were allegedly subjected to psychological drills at Narconon UK that left them broken and traumatized. So I'm guessing this is referring to Scientology's training routines, their communication drills, and some of a kind of auditing process called the objectives processes. Let's see what they have to say. So this is the Narconon UK in East Sussex. Wow, I wonder how many people that place holds. Okay, a Scientology-linked addiction charity accused of subjecting vulnerable people to psychological drills that left them broken and traumatized is being investigated by Britain's charities Watchdog. The Charity Commission said it had opened a regulatory compliance case into Narconon UK, which claims to help people become drug-free for good, and has been promoted on the NHS website to examine concerns about its governance, administration, and management. The case comes after an observer investigation last month raised questions about practices at a facility run by Narconon in Heathfield, East Sussex. Former participants in the program were put through intense exercises likened to a form of obedience training. Yeah, so to me, that is referring to what Scientology calls their upper indoctrination training routines, which is a form of communication drill, except their lower TRs, 0 to 4, is more like spoken communication. And the upper indoctrination TRs 6 through 9, is more like physical communication, like laying hands on people, not like fighting, but like being controlling people, moving them around, moving their bodies, not being backed off or hesitant to physically control people. And in one of the TRs, TR 7, you're actually the coach who's coaching the student. The student is giving the coach commands, specific commands. Look at that wall, walk over to that wall, touch that wall, turn around. Look at that wall, walk over to that wall, touch that wall, turn around. It's done in a space with two walls like this. And it's done back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And the coach is supposed to physically and violently non-comply to the commands. And the student is supposed to manually enforce compliance of the commands. So if it's look at that wall, the coach is supposed to, try not to look at the wall. The student is supposed to grab the coach's head and face and make them look at the wall. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. And if the coach is like, and then peel open the coach's eyelids to make them look at the wall. I'm not kidding. This is what TR7 is. And then you go walk over to that wall, and the coach might pretend to start walking over and then like jump away. Even if the student is supposed to even like physically grab, like manhandle, and even pick them up if needed and walk them over to the wall. And this is like a form of, this is how they train Scientology auditors. These are the drills used in training a professional Scientology auditor. The idea is you get compliance. You don't accept non-compliance, and you can physically enforce compliance. These are the drills that Scientology puts people who are going through the Narconon drug rehabilitation program through as both student and coach. And by the way, these facilities are mostly staffed by people who are recent graduates themselves of the program. So someone goes to Narconon, they're paying $30,000 to do this drug rehab program. They have no idea that all they're going to be getting is Scientology. They're going to be getting the purification sauna program. They're going to be getting lower TRs, upper TRs, and objectives processes. They don't know that. And then they graduate, and then those are the people Scientology hires to work at these facilities. I know from personal experience. I'm familiar with these facilities. Okay. So obedience training. Do you see how like the upper inductrs is absolutely obedience training? Ex-patients and staff describe how people were expected to follow repetitive commands, such as pointing at objects, sitting perfectly still, or answering the same question over and over again for hours at a time. Some described, I guess I'll zoom out a little bit here so we can fit all of the words on the page. Some described suffering extreme reactions to the exercises, such as panicking, zoning out, or going into trance-like states. The lower TRs, 0 to 4, the zeros, there's 3 versions of TR0. There's sitting in a chair with your eyes closed, and someone across from you sitting in the chair with their eyes closed at the same time. There's sitting in a chair with someone across from you staring at each other with your eyes open. And then there's doing all that while being bull baited. So someone's trying to provoke a reaction out of you, and you're supposed to sit there calmly and comfortably and not react to anything. I have seen in my years and years in Scientology and being in Scientology course rooms and running the course rooms, I have seen a remarkable number of people have physical seizures and fall out of their chair while doing TR0, particularly when they're doing the drill at a level where they're required to do it for 2 hours straight, uninterrupted. I don't know what it is about having to do that induces seizures, but I've seen a lot of them. Okay. One person said it felt like their mind had been shattered into a million pieces. Another said, you're helpless there, and the only way out is blind submission or lose thousands of pounds. If I'd have had any concept of what the program actually was, I never would have signed up. Yes. Narconon UK said the allegations were inaccurate, misleading, and thoroughly distorted, adding that it was a world leader in rehabilitation and had saved thousands of lives. It said its approach required discipline and was mentally strenuous, but denied it was harmful. Narconon's UK manager, Sheila McLean, said the drills were designed to teach the participants self-determinism, self-control, and discipline, and to help them break away from destructive habits. These phases are not easy, but our feedback has been hugely positive, and the results speak for themselves. The Charity Commission said its case would look at safeguarding concerns that had been raised in the media, as well as examining the governance, administration, and management of the charity, including the submission of its annual accounts and returns. And I just wanted to comment, Narconon is Scientology. Narconon is under the umbrella of the mother church of the Church of Scientology. Narconon International is staffed exclusively and solely by Scientologists. The Narconon rehab centers are staffed mostly by Scientologists. I have actually known some non-Scientologists who worked at these facilities, but that's, yeah. And Narconon is actually one of the biggest revenue drivers for Scientology. Scientology has a lot of front groups, things that they call their so-called social betterment activities. Narconon is actually the only one other than the World Institute of Scientology Enterprises, which is Scientology's business consulting front group organization. Narconon and WISE are the two front groups that make a ton of money. It costs $30,000 to do the Narconon program. And people have no idea what they're signing up for when they pay that money. And if you wash out of the program, you do not get your money back. So that's why he said, there was one quote here. What did it say? Up here when it said, where did it go? Oh, you're helpless there. You're helpless there, and the only way out is blind submission or lose thousands of pounds. Yeah, they kind of got you over a barrel once you get there. Okay, it says here, a case is not a finding of wrongdoing, but may lead to further investigations or a statutory inquiry. In cases where malpractice or misconduct is identified, the watchdog can take enforcement action. A spokesperson said, we are engaging with the trustees. A charity should be a safe and trusted environment. As a regulator, we are clear that keeping people safe should be a priority for all charities. Launched in the US in 1966, Narconon is built as a holistic, non-medical, and secular approach to rehabilitation. It's interesting that they call it secular. Secular means non-religious. I don't know how it can be non-religious when the entire thing is Scientology, what Scientology considers to be their quote unquote religious scripture. Their auditing is considered their religious counseling. The purification rundown is on Scientology's Bridge to Total Freedom. The objectives auditing processes that the Narconon patients are required to go through are identical to the Scientology objectives processes. In fact, if you do your objectives auditing in a Narconon program, you do not have to do it again in real Scientology. Did you guys know that? Okay. Oh, secular. Launched in 1966, they call it a holistic, non-medical, and secular approach to rehabilitation. Its residential program lasts 3 to 4 months, costs about £15,000. That's too low. That's not accurate. And is based on the belief of L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology's founder, that toxic drug residues lodge in the body and create a biochemical barrier to spiritual well-being. To remove them, patients, referred to by Narconon as students, complete a purification rundown involving 5-hour sauna sessions, treadmill exercise, and high doses of vitamins. They later do psychological exercises and a life skills course. The goal is to achieve a clear body and a clear mind. The Observer spoke to 9 people with knowledge of Narconon's UK operations, including ex-participants and staff, who described how people were put through psychological drills lasting up to 5 hours a day for several weeks. Witnesses described how some participants became paranoid, anxious, or acutely distressed. I saw people yelling and screaming, physical outbursts. Some people would laugh, others would cry. One person said others allegedly went into hypnotic or trance-like states, spacing out or experiencing depersonalization. The Observer's investigation also revealed allegations that some participants were misled about the extent of the program's links to wider Scientology and raised questions about how it had been operating without oversight from England's healthcare watchdog. A Freedom of Information request found that the Care Quality Commission received 19 complaints about Narconon, but did not look into 14 of those because it considered them outside its remit. The Narconon program has never been assessed by the CQC to ensure it is safe. It said this was because while it oversees substance misuse services in England, Narconon's program was alternative and therefore outside of its scope. Oh, very interesting. The Department of Health and Social Care said it was now in active discussion with the CQC about the status of this center and the next steps in terms of regulation. The CQC is reviewing the provider, has visited the facility, and will be writing to them to advise of its decision. Very interesting. So this could not go well for Scientology and the Narconon UK facility. The CQC has since suspended a prior good rating for the facility, which related to the provision of personal care, and added a note saying it is currently dormant. The only part of the service provided at this location registered and regulated by CQC is the accommodation with personal care. Oh, interesting. So they don't oversee the actual rehab part of it. They oversee the residential part of it. We do not regulate the rehab program provided or judge its effectiveness. Oh, okay. Narconon said it was not presently providing a service which falls within the remit of the CQC. It denied downplaying its connection to Scientology, saying it was open about its link to Hubbard, whose work it said had a positive secular application. Even the best run services have their critics, said McLean. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so that's the end of that article. Guys, the Narconon facilities are run in such a substandard fashion because Scientology doesn't really care about anything other than delivering standard Scientology as standardly as we can 100% of the time. They don't really care about regulations. They don't really care about doctors. They don't really care about that kind of stuff. When I was still in Scientology for a number of years, I worked for a guy named Kurt Feshbach. And I worked for him in his hedge fund research business called Falcon Research. But he also owned the local Narconon. Now, I say local because it was the closest Narconon to Clearwater, Florida. At that time, I think it was up in Holiday, Florida, which was about 60 to 90 minutes north. It has since relocated to Clearwater, Florida. I think it's called Narconon Suncoast now. I don't think Kurt Feshbach owns it anymore. But when he owned it and ran it, Kurt Feshbach's one of the most famous Scientologists in Scientology, except for like the Tom Cruise, he's the most famous Scientologist who's not like a famous person in the real world. He and his brothers were the first person to ever donate $1 million to Scientology. Kurt Feshbach is famous in Scientology. And yet his Narconon was run so shoddily that his daughter, Corinne Feshbach, was the quality control secretary. She was literally doing drugs with the students. Her job was to make sure the entire program was run standardly and correctly in accordance with standard Scientology. And yet she was quite literally bringing the students drugs and doing drugs with them. That was a Narconon facility run by a famous Scientologist. Other Narconon facilities are not much better. I know from people I've spoken with at the various facilities, particularly Narconon Arrowhead, which was supposed to be like the center ideal Narconon for all Narconons around the world. And from what I understand, has fallen into disuse and disrepair. Okay, let's see. Just a short one. That's all I wanted to share with you guys. Let's see. Oh my goodness, we got a bunch of new members in the house right now. Grounded in Grace, thank you for joining. Lord Kiss Freak, thank you for joining. Cheryl Texicana, thank you. Anne Shatrine, thank you. Dawn Gloves, thank you. That's incredible. Guys, the live David Miscavige hosted L. Ron Hubbard birthday celebration event is happening tonight here in Clearwater at Ruth Eckerd Hall. I'm going to be there. A lot of other people are going to be there. Stay tuned for that. Keep your eye on the live streams. Hit the notification bell. Check that subscribe button, you guys. You never know what kind of shenanigans are going on in there. Thanks to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,